Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, February 13th of 2022. And as usual, what a beautiful day to be alive. Now, I don't care if it's rainy, snowy, if it's a super hot day, if it's middle of the night there. Here's the thing. Every day that you are living and breathing is a beautiful, beautiful day to be alive. It doesn't ever change. In fact, here in Utah, where it's still winter, we had a beautiful day yesterday, Saturday, and Friday. Oh my goodness. Um, it was probably mid 50s and it was a little bit crisp, but oh my goodness, so beautiful. And I can tell by the day today, it's going to be an absolutely gorgeous day today too. So then that's just weather-wise. Even if it was a snowstorm, I would still be celebrating the sheer beauty of being alive. Now, today I want to talk to you about something that is really, really cool because it's completely game changing. And this is the power of stillness. Now, we all know we should try to quiet our mind, we should try to quiet our body, and we should find these moments of just being still. And this is always easier said than done. So I had a couple of things happen this week that really reminded me of how critically important this is. Now, I am an early bird, and so I get up early, sometimes 2 hours ahead of my husband, sometimes just an hour, just depends, but I'm typically always up before him. And one of the reasons I do this, besides I like getting up early, is because the house is quiet. We have this beautiful big picture window in our kitchen, and there's a counter that I sit at, and there is a perfect view of the Wasatch Mountains here in Salt Lake City. The Salt Lake City is in a valley. There's the Wasatch Mountains on one side, and then another range of mountains right on the other side called the Oquirrh. So where our house is facing, where the kitchen window's facing, it's in the on the east, and the sun comes up over the Wasatch Mountains. So I sit at this counter every morning. It's very quiet. Sometimes it's still dark. Turn on my teapot. I steep myself a cup of tea. I get all my supplements ready. And then basically I sit and I just am in stillness. And typically what I'll do is I'll sit there, I'll do some meditation, I'll tune in to what I want to accomplish that day. I'll tune into my angels and my guides. And I think this is so important to do. But what happens is as I'm sitting there, typically the sun will start to come up, and some days there is an absolute brilliant blaze of color as the sun comes up over these huge majestic mountains. Very much picturesque in the window where I'm sitting at the counter. And sometimes there's the pastels and the beauty that is painted on the sky. The sky has always taken my breath away. So not just sun rises, but sunsets. And I've always been a lover of clouds. I mean, I could sit and just watch clouds and look at how they change over time as the wind moves them. And I think that if we take the time to really look at things like that, it just adds beauty to our lives. So another really cool thing about where I sit is I have this beautiful statue, and I actually brought it over here because I wanted to show you. So when I was in high school, my dad was running his business, and he came home one day with this statue. Now I wanted to show you. It's interesting. It's a very beautiful statue. You can kind of see how big it is, and you can just see the lines. How gorgeous, right? So this sits on the counter in my kitchen, and it's just just a couple feet away from where I'm sitting with my tea. And my dad brought this home. There was a customer who had purchased a big order and apparently didn't have the money to pay for it. So he traded the order for this statue. And we were raised very religious. We were also raised with a big sense of modesty, not to be ashamed of our bodies, but just to be modest. This was just a big part of how we were raised. And when my dad came home with this, it was a tiny bit shocking at first, but my dad was so enamored by the beauty of this sculptor. The woman who did it is not alive anymore, and she made I guess what happens with a lot of artists, they'll make a statue or they'll make a painting and they'll make a certain number of copies. And that was what was with this. So um, this statue that my dad had, this sat in his office until he died. He loved this statue. My mom loved it too. And it just was like this beautiful reminder that my dad enjoyed the beauty of the human form, and he enjoyed really good art. So he loved paintings, he loved classical music. My mom was a huge classical music lover. So this was just something that we grew up with. So I was sitting there on Friday morning, so a couple of days ago. The sun wasn't up yet. It was just barely, the sky was starting to kind of look like it was going to start to, get some color in it. And my tea is steeping next to me, and I'm sitting in perfect stillness. And I'm just being present with myself. And I kind of look over at the statue, and I think, of course, I think of my dad, and I start to kind of think I'm going to have a conversation with my dad, which I actually do on a regular basis. And I think that I know that we have these souls that live on, and when we pass to the next life, we visit, and we're angels for the people that we leave behind. And I know this because I feel my dad, and I have conversations with him on a regular basis. And so a couple days ago, Friday morning, I'm like, oh, hey, Dad, you know, thanks for the gift of loving art and loving sculptures. And what's interesting to me is whenever I have these little conversations with my dad, I always have this thing that pops in my head, and I always say, I hope you're proud. I hope you're proud of me. And the moment I think it, and I push that energy to my dad, immediately it washes over me. I feel like I receive a big hug from my dad. And I also have conversations with my mom on a regular basis. So I think that these moments of stillness that we gift ourselves with can tune us in to our guides and our angels and the people who are there to watch over us, protect us, give us clarity, give us a sense of surety of who we are and what our divine purpose is. And I think that this is such a nice reminder of why we're here, and maybe the short term uh, position that we're in as human beings. And we are witnessing such beauty and history right now, and the shift in consciousness. And I know I say that on a regular basis, but I feel it so strongly, and it gives me goosebumps almost every time, because I think, wow, I'm witnessing what it's like to be alive at this time, this pivotal time in human history. So here's something really cool. So Friday was a beautiful day. So I had this moment where I had this great connection with my dad and his beautiful spirit. And then I got ready and I started my work day, and then I scheduled an appointment for a foot zoning. Now, here's where I'm super lucky, because my beautiful cousin Val does foot zoning. And this is a shout out to you, Val, because when I went there on Friday, she told me how much she loved my Sunday messages of love. And I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for watching. And, that means so much to me. So she gave me this lovely foot zone. If you've never done a foot zoning, it's like foot massage times 10. And it's just healing the different zones of your body. They're correlated to the different um, systems of your body. So your feet are connected to your organ systems, your nervous system, um, your circulatory system, and it's something that's really, really amazing therapy to go through. So I had this lovely session with my cousin, and because we're cousins, it was it was a back and forth. Our dads are brothers, so we have that beautiful family connection. And as she was giving me this foot zone, I realized, here's this beautiful soul who I love so much, and she's living her divine purpose. Because what she was telling me at the end was how much she gets out of doing this foot zoning and this service and this gift that she gives to others, that it just fills her up. And I think that that is something that teaches us that no matter what we're doing, we should be living and breathing in our divine purpose. And you might feel like maybe your life is not exactly how you want it to be. Maybe you're a mother of young children, and that is your divine purpose at the moment, a father or mother. Maybe the career that you're in is maybe it's temporary. Maybe it's not temporary. And like I talked about even last week, if this is something that you're in, find the joy in it. Find a way to make it your divine purpose, because it can be the way you interact with people. So I just want to bring this back to finding those times, and I would suggest doing this daily, when you can live in stillness for a few moments. You might need to get up an hour earlier. You might need to stay up a little bit later. In fact, what my mom used to do, and this used to just drive us crazy as little kids, and even especially as teenagers, but her time was in the evenings. So if she was like ready for all of us to get out of her hair, and think about it, if you're raising 10 kids and there ended up being 14 of us, she needed those still times, those quiet times where it was just self-preservation. And she would send us to bed early. I remember even in the summer, and it wasn't every single day, but it was often enough that we still talk about it as adults. But she would send us to bed at 6 o'clock. And we could lay in bed and read. Sometimes we get in trouble because we'd all be playing and fighting and making noise and doing the things that kids do. But that was my mom's time. Many, many times, I would say at least half the time that I was growing up, she would send us to bed early. And this was actually, if you think about it, a beautiful gift for us too, because we weren't watching TV, but we could read. And we were reading. All of us are voracious readers because that was something that we could do, that we could just dive into. And my parents always made sure we had plenty of books. So that was just a huge gift too. Now here is one thing that is super funny my mom would do. And again, this is something we talk about all the time, because in a way it's like, oh my goodness, how could you not only send us to bed early, but then what she would do, one of her favorite things was to bake chocolate chip cookies and just sit and enjoy them with herself with a big tall glass of milk. And not having like 100 kids eat them up as soon as they would come out of the oven. So not only would we be in bed early, but then the whole house would smell like fresh chocolate chip cookies. And, that it's one of our best memories. And, God bless my mom. She was an angel on earth, and now she's a huge angel. We feel her presence all the time. And this is another reason to be still, to tune into the people who have gone on before you. So get those moments, find the time, carve out the time. This might be a time when you can literally tune into yourself and discover what's your divine purpose for being here. I think it's, like I said, such a beautiful time to be alive. It's pivotal. And there are so many beautiful things happening on the planet. In fact, if you got to the end of this video and you're not aware of the big movements of people who are standing up for freedom and civil rights, and they're doing it with so much love. The things that I'm seeing, I have friends, there's a big things happening in Canada right now. And not only is the mainstream media not covering a huge majority of it, the little bits that I'm seeing that maybe they are covering in mainstream, they're making it look negative. And I have friends who live there, and I have been staying in touch with them on a daily basis. And I'm telling you, it honestly, I feel like, wow, the things that are happening, these are huge, historic. And I hope that you are tuning into that, because the energy of the earth and the rising of human consciousness is so, you can feel it. And I hope you're feeling it. I hope that is the energy that you are vibrating in, because that is the only way to walk through this. There's a little bit of a alternate reality I think, because I know people here that I come in contact with a little more rare than I used to, just because of the shift of everything. Um, and there's and they're still living in fear and negativity, and I had my moments of that. Really, I had some really intense moments of all of that. Um, so my hope for you, to wrap this up, is to find those moments of stillness and realize what an epic time that you have right now to really find your reason for being here. And what I want to do to end this is, I found this it's kind of like a little poem that I wrote about 7 or 8 years ago, when it felt like a really divisive time. But here's the crazy thing. It's definitely not as divisive as this time has been. And I don't even remember exactly why it was divisive, but it felt like a divisive time for humanity. And so I wrote this little poem, and I just wanted to end this Sunday message for you by reading this to you. It's very short. So it's called The Simple Truth. The simple truth: we are all one. Only egos, beliefs, and fears separate us. We all want to love and be loved. We all want abundance and joy. We all want happiness, kindness, and compassion. We all want to live vibrant and pain-free in our physical bodies. The way we choose to have these things in our lives is the only thing that makes us different from each other. The only thing. Celebrate each person's path to happiness and love. We are all brilliant and beautiful. We are all one. So thank you for being on this journey with me. I think that this year, man, holding on for the ride, that is me for sure. I get goosebumps on a daily basis, and I hope those for you too. So find your moments of stillness, find your divine purpose, realize what a beautiful, brilliant human being you are. I'm sending you so much love, and we'll see you in the next one.